Hello and welcome back for part 2. So in part 1 we did the model. I have my file service class which can save to-dos to files, and it has some functionality to add and update and delete and get to-dos that the rest of my app is going to need. So the next step in this video here is to add, well, at least start on making so we can see the to-dos that we have currently stored in the file. So that means setting up the main method and the to-do app and the core, and then this view package here. Maybe this should be called lists. Not a very good name. List all, view all, to-dos. I don't know. We'll call it list for now. That's good enough. So let me just delete that. Where do we start? Well, I want to start here, and then we move to this class, and then we make the view handler, which was going to initialize this over here, and then we see if that's working. And then once I can click a button, perhaps, well, there's nothing to click here. We'll see. This class is going to request the to-do lists from this class, so we can print out in here to see if there's a connection, and then we can add this also, the association here, and get the to-dos and hopefully display in a table up here. So that's the idea. Let's start with the to-do app. Here, to-do app is going to extend application from JavaFX. That means I have to override the start method. Okay, we'll just say to-do app start. Just want to print this out to make sure that I have things tied together. Here we say application from JavaFX to launch. The class is to-do app. That class. This is what we want to run. So if I run this, hopefully we get something printed out in the console down here. Start. Okay, everything is running as expected. Now we need the view handler to be initialized from here. So let's create a view handler. View handler. And this one needs a, what do we need? We need a stage. So we can, whenever we open a new stage and show that, that's going to create a new window. So let's initialize this in the constructor. No, I don't want that. And we'll just say new stage equals new stage. Okay. I also want a method to start the app. That's going to be this one, public void start. And this method here is just going to open the initial view, the list here. For now we say stage just show, and here we say open list view. This method is supposed to open this Fxml file here. Let's just see if we can start this correctly. Here we need a view handler, and we need to start it. And let's see what happens. Okay, I just get a blank stage with nothing in it, so that's expected, and I do get printed out that we are down here. So now we need to actually create my list view. So let's go in here. I need a new package, say list, and in here we need a Fxml file list. Yeah. And it initially just has an anchor pane, and it wants to ask which file is the controller, and I want it to be called controller. So I guess well, we want to append controller here because there's sometimes this is sometimes needed by JavaFX in certain circumstances. And well, it's red because I don't have the class yet, so we can just create it. You can see that it has been created here, and this class doesn't really do anything for now. So I have these two, the list Fxml and the list controller. Let us open this in Scene Builder and just set up a table so we can view some to-dos. And I don't know how, we probably need to make this wider layout. Maybe there's a width, preferred width. I'll just make it 800. And then we need a table view. Yeah. And we'll just make it fill out everything for now. Okay, so I have had some problems with the table when I try to edit the number of columns in here. I should be able to drag a column down so I could have more, because I will need one for the ID, the owner, the text, and the completed status. So I need 4, but Scene Builder seems to crash whenever. So I will just go here and say I need 2 more, and once they have been created, I can go back into the Scene Builder and we can see now. So now I need to name this. This one here is called ID. This one here is called owner. This one here is called text or description, or well, we have a text, and this one is called is completed status, perhaps. Okay, and then we need to expand these. So the ID is probably good. The owner should be a little wider. So just try and preferred width, let's say 150. The status is also just a true or false, and this one here. So I have 70, 150, 300, and we made it 800. So let's say this one is 500. Okay. Now I need to be able to reference each of the columns and the table from my controller class, and I do that by adding IDs. So this one is just called table view or something else. The column is called ID column. This here is called that's the owner column. This one is the text column. You see complaints up here, and that's because it doesn't find anything called text column in my controller, but we will fix that afterwards. And this one is called status column. Okay, that's it for now. I'm going to have some buttons and other stuff, but I think this will do for now. So we can see that the table has been updated, or the Fxml. Some of these are marked with a yellow highlight. That's because there's no field variable called table view in my controller. There's nothing here. So I can just say Alt Enter to quick fix this. That will create a table view. I need the other ones as well, so that we can reference each of these columns in order to specify what should each column view or display. So my table view is going to contain to-do items. I have to import that. My column here is going to say, I think the first one is what type should it display, and in my case an int, but integer as the class, and then the class to get it from is to-do, and this one is a string, and we're reading it from a to-do class, and this one is a string reading it from the to-do, and this one here is a boolean reading it from a to-do. Let's see, I think it's like this, if I remember correctly. Alright, Okay, so no warnings, everything looks good. Let us just see if I can open this specific view here. It doesn't do anything yet, but let's see if we can open that instead of that blank window. So in the view handler, we're going to say Fxml Loader. I need that to, well, that's going to read my Fxml file and then construct these classes and put things together. So loader, new Fxml Loader, and then we say loader set location, and I have to say get resource, get class, get resource, and then we need to give it a path to the Fxml file that we need to load. And we are in the view handler, so we need to navigate out to the To-Do app. That's one step up. We do it like that, dot dot. That's one folder up to the parent folder. Then we need to go into the view, then into the list, and then here we can find the list.fxml. Then we say loader.load, and that's going to give me a parent. I just call it root. And this one requires me to just do these surround, try catch about just around everything here. And well, the root here, that's my outer pane, my anchor pane, the container that holds everything else in my view. That's a subclass. The anchor pane is a subclass of parent. So whatever if I change this to be some other kind of panel, then that would also subclass the parent. So I can always just define that this is a parent. If we look up the anchor pane, we can see here the anchor pane extends pane, the pane extends region, and the region extends parent. So parent is sort of almost the top superclass of every Fxml component. Okay. Then we need the controller. So we say loader get controller. That's going to return to me a list controller like that. I have to import it. Okay. And well, we don't need to do anything on the controller just yet. We need to create a new scene, and I need to pass in the root here. So the scene contains my UI stuff. There we go. And then we say stage. First we set the title, view all, and then we say stage, set scene with my scene, and afterwards we have called show up here. So currently I'm not doing anything with my controller, but we'll need to initialize it later with some extra information. So that's going to be updated. For now, let's see if I can run it and get a boring table displayed. Yeah, that looks exactly as expected. No content, that's fine. Okay. So the list controller, we're off to a good start. We need to now give it a list view model and bind these two things together. So I'm going to need a list view model. I'll just create it in here. Class list view model. I don't know what it's supposed to do just yet, but I do need a Viewmodelfactory, and I need to make that dependency. And oh, this here is actually an association. Oh, thank God for undo. Okay, associations like that. Maybe it's not all that relevant, but just means that the view handler has a field variable of type Viewmodelfactory. This one has a field variable of type Modelfactory, and so on. I have abused notation a little bit here. The dependency is supposed to point to an actual class, but then I would have an arrow to add and to list and to edit, and this one here would have an arrow to all of these classes. So it would just be a bunch of arrows. So I'm indicating here that the view handler creates everything in this line, Viewmodelfactory creates everything in this line, and so on. Okay. We need the Viewmodelfactory. That goes into the core. Viewmodelfactory. this one should be able to return a list view model. So public void guest list VM return new list view model. And obviously it's not a void, so we just or predecessor. What does that mean? Or predecessor object. Okay. Alright, so every time we ask for a list view model, we just give it a new instance. Later we can modify this so we are returning a previously instantiated instance. That might save us some resources. We'll see about that. Okay, we need to tie this together in the To-Do app here. So first we need to create a Viewmodelfactory. Like that. We need to pass it to the view handler. So we add a Viewmodelfactory as an argument to the constructor. We can see that here. I need to assign this to a field variable. I can just alt enter and say create field, like that. So that's assigned to a field variable. And we need to pass that view model, the list view model, we need to give that to the list controller. So down here we say controller.init. I don't have an init method yet, but I'm going to need to give it the view handler for later use. And also we're going to need to give it the view model. So let's just create this controller here. Method. We're going to create this method. Void view handler, view handler, view handler. That's good. And I'm going to need that as a field variable. And this one probably also. We'll see. I'll save that for now. All right. That's good. So that's tied together. My list controller now knows about a list view model, and here we say list view model. I want to load data, indicating that I want to ask the to-do service here for all the to-do items. So I'm going to need a load data method. What does it do? Nothing yet. List view model, but let's just print out that I have reached this point to make sure everything is tied together as expected. So if I run this, it should open the boring list or the empty table, and it should print out that we're trying to get some data from the list view model. Let's try and run it. Did it run? Nothing happened. Did I mess something up? Oh, it was just slow. I was getting all nervous. Load data, and well, no content, but we do get to the view model. Okay, so that's definitely a good start. The final part is this association here, so we can actually get some data. So I need a model factory. Let's just create that model factory. I'm going to need to create a, well, in this case here I just create a new instance every time, but the model factory, I'm going to need to make sure that we work on the same instance of to-do file service, so that I don't, when I click here, I add to one instance of the to-do file service, but over here I'm getting from another one, and then we don't see the latest item. So we're going to create a field variable to store that instance in. It's a to-do service. Down here we have a public to-do service get to-do service, and we say if to-do service is null, meaning it have not been initialized before. Oh, no view handler here. Then we initialize it, and then we return it to-do service. So the first time we ask for a to-do service is going to be null. We're going to initialize it, create a new one. It's going to load everything from the file and then return it. The second time we ask for it, we already have the instance, and so it's no longer null, and we just return whatever we have here. This also means that if at some point I need to swap out for a database or a different type of file storage or something else, maybe I want cloud storage or whatever, I only have to modify this single line of code or the name here to be to-do database service. And then my entire app still works because no one else knows about the to-do service, to-do file service. All of these view models just knows about the to-do service. So they don't actually care what kind of class is down beneath here. And that is very nifty. So I have that my model factory. I need to give it to my Viewmodelfactory, so my Viewmodelfactory can create view models that knows about the to-do service. Viewmodelfactory. This one needs a private to-do service, and we need a constructor that sets this like that. Okay, so that gives me a related problem because at some point I have created a Viewmodelfactory with a constructor that takes no argument, but now I need an argument, so I can just click here and see, okay, here's the problem. So we need to create a model factory, and we pass that along like that. Okay, I messed up. It's not a to-do service that we need to know about here. It is a model factory, and I'll just delete that. What did I do here? No, that was the wrong shortcut. Too many shortcuts. This one. Okay, so sure, my view model could have just known about the to-do service, and that could be an okay, but I might have other services or other model classes that should be instantiated as my program grows. Maybe I have a user service or a project service or whatever, right? In that case, it's easier if my view model factory knows about the model factory instead of specific models like this. So whenever we create a new list view model, it needs to know about the to-do service. So we just say model factory get to-do service. Obviously it is complaining because my current constructor does not take any arguments. I'll enter to create a constructor, and we want to assign this to a field variable like that. Wonderful. Now my list view model knows about a to-do service. When we load the data here, we can say to-do service get all. That's going to get all my to-dos. It is a list. What do I want to do with that list? Well, I want to put it in an observable list, because JavaFX use observable list instead of just plain old array lists. And that's because when something is modified in the observable list in the list view model, that can automatically be reflected in the controller so that the GUI is updated. So I'm going to need a private observable list that contains to-do and to-dos, and we're going to instantiate that as an fx collections.observable array list like that. Okay, so here's actually, it's not called factory, but it is a factory similar to my factories, Viewmodelfactory and Viewmodelfactory. It creates other objects. That's just a factory, something that creates objects. I don't know why I cannot create a new think I can create a new observable array list. I don't have that, so I have to create an observable array list through this here. That's okay. I'm getting all of my to-dos from the service, read from the file. We get it up here to the list view model. I want to take all of them and put into the add all and put them into the observable array list so that we can use this list to display stuff in the table. Let's just print out size of loaded to-dos, size. Okay, so that means when I start the app, we're going to initialize the controller, which will ask the list view model to load the data, which will ask the to-do service to get the data, and then we are printing out how many to-dos is actually loaded, just to see that we're getting something from the service. Let's try it out. Okay, size of loaded to-dos, 5. That seems like a good number, an expected number. I need a get method so I can actually get access to this list here. So we say public observable list with to-do, get to-dos, like that. We return that list to-dos. Oh, like that. Yeah, so now my controller can get access to it, and we can set up the table so that it too much stuff open here. We can set up the table to display my to-dos. How do we do that? Well, first we say table view set items with the list view model get to-dos, and then I need to say for each of these columns what should you display from the to-do item, and I hope that this is how to do the to-do. So let's just try that out. Alright, so it should look something like this. ID column, set cell value factory, new property value factory, and it's going to read the ID. So I just give it a string, and this string here has to match the name, not here, that's my to-do here. It has to match sort of get ID. Well, it's trying to find a method that is called get ID, as far as I understand it. Let's just run it and see if we get a bunch of IDs. I do. That's good. Good start. All right. Let's say that the owner column set cell value factory new property blah blah blah, and this one is called owner, and we have the text column set new property value factory. Here it's called text. I didn't call it description, right? What's my to-do? My to-do class, it's called text. Okay. And status column set cell value new property, and here it's called is completed. I'm curious to see if this one works, because that method is not called get. It's a get method basically, but it's a boolean, so there's a convention that you just call like this is something. All right, let's see what we get out of this. Oh, not good. The status doesn't work. And what do we cannot read from unreadable property is completed. So it's trying to find unreadable property. Okay, let us rename this to get is completed and see if that helps. I did not. refactor that very well. Let's try and build it again. Okay, so that went okay. Run. Run. No. No content in table. That is to do local class incompatible with stream. Ah, yeah, okay, so I changed the class and I have stored one type in the bin file. So let's just remove this one here. Okay, let us try and run it again. Still not happy about this one here. Cannot read from unreadable property is completed. Now why is that? Okay, there's some strange naming conventioning going on. I had called this is completed. Now I've called it completed. Set completed, get completed in my controller here. Where did we go here? I have it completed. Maybe I could have used is completed. I don't know. Now it's just completed. That's okay. And then I found out I have swapped these two around. That's not really relevant, but just for good measure. I just swapped that back again. String, and here it's an to do integer. Okay, and hopefully that still works. Right? I get my 4 to-dos. I deleted the file, so because I modified the class that then it could not read from the file and put into the to-do class. So here we are. All right. That's good enough for now. I am now able to display all my to-dos. We can't add or edit anything, but that should be enough for this part. In the next part, we're going to do the add feature, I think. Yep. All right. See you soon, perhaps.